Hello, welcome to Coffee with the Principals. Today we are going to be exploring the minor incident referral form and the process. And while we're doing that, I will be enjoying a nice Starbucks medium blend breakfast coffee, which is quite nice. Let's get started. After receiving feedback around how minor incidents were being reported and followed up on, we've decided to shift our practice. So from this point forward, we're asking that teachers discontinue the practice of entering minor incidents themselves into Synergy. And instead, what we'll be doing is we'll use a paper tracking system. So what this will look like is an incident occurs, the teacher takes out the paper copy of the minor incident report, and then they write the student's name at the top, they put their name at the top, and then they indicate the specific behavior that is being addressed with this paper. And you'll notice that there are 3 columns. That's because it takes 3 minor incidents, and then on the 4th it becomes a major incident, which would then be addressed by the administration. So what we'll do is, as a behavior occurs, if it's disrespect, then we mark disrespect on the top of the paper, and then you'll put disrespect on the checkbox in the form in the first column. And then your action taken, which would likely be something around the restorative practices. You'll follow the steps, of course, of how to work through a situation by naming the behavior, stating expectations, reteaching and modeling the expected behavior, and then determining if you have compliance or non-compliance. And then we'll be documenting the incident. It's also really important still for us to identify the motivation. So is it adult attention, avoiding work, is it sensory, and you'll mark that in the box. Then as you get down near the bottom, you'll mark the date and the time, and then a brief note about what occurred. Add the time, and then the parent contact. Once you've filled out the minor incident form, remember that you're only filling this out for that specific behavior. So if you have a student who had not only had disrespect, but then later on another day had a uniform violation, you would not put the uniform violation on this specific paper. You would actually have a second paper to capture the information about the uniform violation. Because what we're looking for are patterns. We want to see the 3 and then to the 4th where it becomes that major. So having them on separate pieces of paper will really help you in the tracking of the behaviors. So you would fill out everything that kind of comes up for that second incident. So a few days later, there's another problem with disrespect, another incident happens. Your action taken was perhaps loss of privilege, you've made your parent contact. And then a week later, there's another incident that's also focused on disrespect, so you would mark that down. On the 4th time, then you bring this down to the office, you bring it to Cheryl High, turn that into her, and then she escalates it to either Erica or I. And we will then be able to address that behavior administratively. And because at that point, once the behavior happens the 4th time, it has then ceased being a minor behavior problem and is now a major problem. And that really brings us to kind of some key points with our new minor referral process. So we will be at this point discontinuing the use of Synergy as teachers to enter information into our system. We found that what we learned was that teachers unfortunately do not have access to some very key components that need to be entered into that system for our tracking, and it was creating problems with our data analysis. Also, we're really having a difficult time capturing when those minors were occurring and seeing those patterns. By using, when we get to the second point here, by using that minor referral form for each incident, as a teacher, you'll see there was a problem on Monday, there was a problem 2 weeks later, there's a problem 2 days after that. And then when we get to that 4th incident, then that can be turned into the office and it gets escalated to administration because it ceases to be a minor incident once it's occurred on that 4th time. So turning that form into us will help make sure that as administration, we're aware of those minor incidents that are occurring, and then Cheryl will be able to enter that into the system, and she has access to all the data points that we need to have entered. The third point, really keying in and making sure that you're using a separate form for different behaviors. You want to make sure that if you're having if you're documenting, say, disrespect, that is captured on a different form than you are for a student who is having issues with uniforms. So those are two very different issues, and they need to be addressed differently. So making sure that they have separate papers. So you might wind up having 2 or 3 different papers for a single student because they're addressing different behaviors. On our fourth point, just making sure you turn in those minor referral forms to Cheryl in the office once a scholar has had a fourth related behavior incident. And then it'll also be good to turn in all those forms at the end of the month to Cheryl so they can be entered into the data, into our systems. And then we'll have a process for making sure that you are able to have that information back so that you'll be able to track if there was a problem at the end of the month and there were, say, 2 incidents that occurred near the end of the month, that you're not starting back over at the beginning of the month. That we'll get those back to you, so you're able to you're able to track that to see when it does escalate to a major incident. And that is our podcast, Coffee with the Principals. I am just finishing up my coffee here. Not bad. It's a little cool. I guess I could have drunk it a little faster, but I still have to edit. So there you go. Hey, thanks for listening, tuning in. Hope you have a great week.